Good morning. Our hand today is going to be 8-7. So in this hand, we're nine-handed. Mid position player raises 3 big blinds and it's folded to me. Now, this player is playing loose passive. I have 157 hands on him. When I look at his pre-flop raise percentage, especially his raise first in, I've got 18% from early position, 28 from mid position, but the number of hands is pretty small. So if we change that 7 to 6, we're going to see a pretty big drop in percentages. That's possible that they've had decent hands to make this play with, so it's elevating their frequencies, and that's kind of what I'm going to assume. Because when I work through like a 20%, 24% pre-flop raising range, it just seems way too wide for a player like this, especially considering his limp stats. So his limp first ins 36%. These are probably more realistic and more indicative of how he actually plays. So, what I did was kind of set this up and said this is 14.5% raising range, and this might actually still be too wide. He might not have these king 10, queen 10 in here. He might not have suited connectors. He might not have these suited aces. So we're gonna start wide and maybe then shrink his hand just to see what we're gonna have. Now it's on me. What should I be doing? Well, my hand charts say that I should be calling with this range. However, I kind of feel like this is a spot where I could have gone ahead and 3-bet. His fold 3-bet's at 75, so 3 out of 4 times he ends up folding. If he is playing a range like this, I'm not expecting him to really call too much. Yeah, he'll call with premium hands. He'll probably 4-bet with premium hands if I had that. But I think with our hand, we could 3-bet. Now that's against this player. What about the blinds? We don't know a whole lot about the blinds, and right now the big blinds looking to be pretty loose. So I think we've got a situation where we can call here and expect to go 3-way, possibly 4-way. Don't know about villain 4, or we can 3-bet and possibly pick up the pot right away. So I kind of think a 3-bet could have been an option. I didn't. I just called, and then big blind called, so we are 3-way, which it's not the end of the world. It just makes it less likely that we're going to be able to win the pot. So the flop comes out king 9-6, so we have an open ender. It actually gets checked to us, so he skips the c-bet. Now, if he skips the c-bet, I don't think he's going to have a king. His c-bet stat while out of position is 29%, so it's possible that he can be limping or checking here with pairs, with 9x, jacks, queens, because he's scared of the king. I think if he was in position, he'd probably still only c-bets if he connected somewhat with the flop. So he folds, or he checks. It's on me. I've got the open ender, and this guy checked too. I can't imagine that his hand's too weak, but we could definitely have some of these kings. We could have some of these nines. So we don't have trip kings, but we could have trip 9s, trip 6s, and so forth. So I fired out a bigger bet, exact 75% pot. I get called in 2 spots, and that is just interesting. 5 hits on the turn completes our straight. It gets checked to us. What do? Pot is 30.8. We've got a 42.3. We've got 61.4. This was a situation where I thought, well, maybe I could go half pot. Maybe I can go larger or smaller. And I went basically shoved all in, which was not quite double, but I thought now's the time to kind of push the envelope. I didn't want to try to go small, and if I go small, it might look like I already bet 75%. If I go smaller than 75%, then I think somebody could look at this and say, oh, he could have easily have hit that straight and is now hoping to get me to call and induce a fold. Whereas something like this, I could read it as saying, look, he's trying to get us to fold. because they're scared of the spade draw or whatever. So I do get called by villain 7, and then we see a 9 and showdown. So let's take a look at what GTO says. GTO as it's set up, so villain 7 should be betting about 46.6% of the time, checking the rest. It is a bit of a mixed strategy, so you've got like 50% bet, 50% check with some of these hands. These could be, it seems to be checking a few more sets. I bet that's looking to check raise with sets. Top pairs betting, over pairs betting, pocket pair below the top cards checking, probably check calling on those middle pairs, sometimes betting, sometimes checking, and so forth. So I'm going to say he checks, and then it's on me. I'm betting at 36.6% frequency. 8-7 tends to be more of a bet. That's my straight. Trip 6s would be a bet. Trip 9s would be a bet. Top pair, sometimes bet, sometimes check. I think the fact that we're 3-way, it should shift some of our frequencies to be a little bit more straightforward. So fewer of these no-made hands here, even though villain like checked and checks his sign of weakness. I think we're probably going to be less bluffy with these hands. Bet our sets, bet our top pair, bet more of our top pair, and probably bet a few more of our gut shots. Use our gut shots as a bluff. And if we get called, we get called. We at least have the possibility of catching the gut shot. So it looks like we're doing okay with our GTO. There's a caller and then another caller. And oh yeah, our decisions, my flop trees, so are gonna be off. Yeah, if we did, let's just do this. Opia has checked. We'll do 100% pot here for the turn, and go with that. Change that to 50%. All right, we're gonna rerun this solver because I just kind of realized that this is GTO's working 2 players. We actually have a third, so that's gonna build up the pot much more quickly than what GTO is expecting. So we'll kind of you'll see the bets. So I'll run this and come back. All right, so I don't think this is really gonna change some of the decisions. Villain still checks. We're still betting about 30% of the time. We're still betting trips. We shouldn't have any 2 pairs in our range, so we should have sets. We could have top pair. A lot of our top pairs just going to check. King, queen, we can bet, and we're betting for value, but king, jack, king, 10, I think we're checking, and I'm sure it's kind of protect against this player's checking range, which could include some of our better kings as well as getting check raised. So like if we bet here, oops, check. We bet here, he's supposed to be raising 15% of the time. He's raising sometimes with trips, trip 9s. He's raising. He's calling with trip kings. He's got some of these 9s that he's raising with. So I think we are kind of guarding against that. So we do bet. He calls. We'll assume he's playing GTO until we see his hand, and then maybe revise how he plays and see how that affects it. At this point, I do think he's able to fold hands if he doesn't connect with a piece of the board. So the 5 actually helped quite a bit. I'm not surprised that Villain's strategy is to check 100%. He basically checked, so now he's going into check calling mode or check raising mode. Definitely not leading. It's on us. Should we bet or should we call? And it looks like we are now betting at a much higher frequency. We've connected with our straight. We're betting that. We've got 9. Now we've picked up some. There are 9-8. We've got gut shot. We've got some straight draws. So we're going to be pretty aggressive with our straights, 3 of a kinds. Top pair still is about 50-50. Sometimes we bet, sometimes we check. Middle pair, same thing. Middle pair actually looks like it's more betting. but fortunately we don't have a huge number. It's like we're betting about 2/3 of the time. Weak pairs definitely always betting. I think with the fours we are betting to try to generate folds. In a three-way pot, I'm not sure if that's going to be good. I think the same thing applies to like the middle pair. I think in a three-way pot, I don't know if you can continue betting middle pair. I think you would just take the free card. Same thing with like gut shots. I think you just kind of take the free card. Maybe a flush draw you can bet. Depend. I guess king high flush maybe. We could continue betting because even if we're behind with our kickers, we have some draws. Yeah, king jack, king 10. I think even if we're behind to a better kicker, we have possibility of picking up the flush. So I do think our bet is okay, and then villain should be calling 31%. And when you look at ranges that he's calling, three of a kind, some top pair, some pocket pair with low top pair, I think he's probably calling a little too wide. But he called, and at that spot, basically, I shoved. Remember, I shoved because once we got to the turn, pot was 30.8. We had a 42.3. So like a 1 1/3 pot larger. I had 53, not quite 2x pot. I just think it probably makes a little bit more sense just to shove here. And that way we don't have a tough river decision. It's like if we only bet half pot and we get a call and then the board pairs 9 and he shoves, what do? I mean, are we going to call with our straight? Yeah, we probably need to, but we're not going to like it because, the board paired. So it does look like we played well here. What did he show? He showed king 10. So did he have that in his range? No. I mean, he could have king 10 suited, but he didn't have the offsuit. So if he's playing king 10, it almost seems like he really is playing a wider range here. So maybe leave those offsuits, maybe these broadways. So let's run this. Let's run the solver with a wider range. So now this brings it up to 21.7 range. So it includes those, and see what the play is. We'll be back. All right, so we are back. Villain should be betting about 50% of the time. He's got some checks. He should even be betting king 10, but it is a mixed strategy. So he checks. It's on me. I'm going to be betting our trips, our middle pair. We're going to be betting our open ender. We're betting king queen for value, definitely. King queen offsuit, it's about 50-50. King jack, probably more bets than checks. King 10, we're just going to be checking here. So our bet works. Villain's going to be calling. King 10 is in his range. Top pair, fourth kicker. He's got queen 10 in his range for the gut shot, jack 10 in his range for the gut shot. He's calling with these under pairs, so can't really fault him at this point for that call. And then, yeah, of course he's going to check, so it's on me. What do? We bet. We're betting 4s, 5s, 6s, so your trips, your 9s. We're betting some 8s because if we hit the small percentage of 8s that we do have, we've picked up our gut shot. This helps us. And these middle cards really help us because we have a calling range here. Doesn't really help villain at all, that early position player. So he's still going to be calling with some pocket pairs. We've got 10s at this point. No, this is mine. We're just going to check behind with 10s, which I think is correct. We're checking behind with some of these Broadway cards. We're still betting with king queen. And I think that's appropriate. So we do bet, and now we probably have to account for the fact that we are betting 2 times, and this was only, I think, 100% pot. Yeah, this is a 100% pot bet. Is what it was. What it was. Um, yep. All right, go back here. It was a 100% pot bet that we did, and then villain has him folding the king 10. Sometimes you call, but you call with the king of spades because you've blocked the spades. Makes it less likely that I have a spade, I believe. Um, so you're calling basically as a bluff, saying, "Hey, I still have top pair," which makes it less likely you have top pair, and makes it less likely that you have a spade. So it's more likely I have something like a 9, 9-8, 9-7 possibly. If I don't have 9-7 in my range, but 9-8, 10-9, maybe jacks, maybe eights, maybe sevens, and that sort of hand. So his call, I don't like. GTO doesn't like, but he called anyways, and then we saw the river. Now, of course, GTO has going river decisions. We don't do that because we were all in, but once we get to all in, if he checks us, we go ahead and bet most of our range, including the kings. King, queen, king, jack. Now, we really weren't betting those king, jack, king tens, but if we had been, we continue betting them. What happens if villain bets here? If villain bets, he shouldn't be betting with anything. With that 9, what would I expect him to bet? I think kings probably would bet, nines would bet. I think you're shooting for value there. I don't. Maybe king queen bets. I think king jack king 10 probably just check call. I think possibly even ace 9, so we can go for a little bit of value here. But if he bets, I think we could probably fold. Really, the only hands that we're going to be beating would be that king queen that he has, and it looks like there's very few combos in the range. By the time he made it here, because again, I think king queen's probably betting at some point. So it's almost like he hit kings full, quad nines, and he's hoping the pot doesn't get checked through. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this. If you did, look tomorrow for another hand.